Pickle Peeps, thank you for joining me for another video. I'm your host, VooDooPickles, and today we're going to be talking about the top 10 horror movies that hit differently as a new Christian. Hey Pickle Peeps, just jumping in here, editing Voodoo. So this video turned out to be a lot longer than I expected. And so I'm going to be cutting it into two pieces. Numbers 1 through 5 are going to be in this video, and then 6 through 10 are going to be in a part 2, which will be released a little bit later. But I just wanted to jump in and let you know that I'm only going to be doing this first 5 in this one. So there'll be a part 1, and then there'll be a part 2. And I've been watching horror movies since I was a kid. Since I was really young and probably shouldn't have been watching horror movies, but I've always watched a lot of horror movies. And if you watched my channel updates video, you'll know that recently I became a Christian. About 4-ish months ago I became a Christian, so I'm a new Christian. And I know that there's a lot of Christians that have a problem with watching horror movies. I don't think there's a problem with it, and I still watch a lot of horror movies as a new Christian, and watching them now versus watching them before, it's a little bit different. It's a shift in like my perspective and everything, but I still watch them. I still enjoy them. I still don't feel like it's a problem. If you want a video of me explaining why that is, because it's a little too much to be in this one, definitely leave something in the comments below, and I will get that video out to you guys. But I definitely think that Christians should be able to watch horror movies, and they should be involved a lot in horror movies. And these are the movies that, as a new Christian, they hit differently. And I think there's only like one movie on here that I haven't watched before I was a Christian. And I'll get to that later in the video, but these are they hit differently. They hit differently. And just for anybody to know, there will be mild, maybe, no. I think there's going to be full-on spoilers. We're going to say full-on spoilers. There's going to be full-on spoilers for any of these movies that you see on the screen. For the audio-only people, it's going to be anything for Jackson. Talk to Me, The Possession, Pywacket, Friday the 13th. So the first movie is Anything for Jackson, which was released in 2020. And this movie was when my husband, who became a Christian, I think 2 to 3 years before I was. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but he was a Christian long before I was. And we watch a lot of horror movies together. We watched them before he was a Christian, after he was a Christian, before I was a Christian, and then after I was a Christian. So we watched them through all of our stages of going through our Christian journey. And he told me that one of his favorite subgenres of horror movies is like of occultists messing with things they should not be messing with, and then dealing with the consequences of this happening. And I didn't really think this was going to be a subgenre that I liked, or really a subgenre, until I started looking into it a little bit more. I'm like, oh yes, this is a pretty big one. So Anything for Jackson does this very well. This follows an older couple who lost their daughter and their grandson in a car accident. Their grandson being Jackson. And when they lost their daughter and their grandson, they decided to try to bring their grandson back. To do this, they go through all types of different, I don't want to like not really theologies, all these type of different religions, and trying to go into it. They fall more into the occult while trying to figure out how to bring their grandson back, and they become Satanists. They join a Satanist coven, and they end up finding a book that has a bunch of spells in it that they kind of decipher. Most of it's in Latin, some of it's in other languages. They're able to find a spell that can bring things back to life. They start small, like on birds and animals and things, and they decide, all right, this is going to be the ritual. This is what we're going to do to bring our grandson back. And they set up this ritual, and the husband of this couple is a doctor, and he kidnaps a pregnant woman that they need for their ritual to bring their grandson back. And it's really interesting because you can see where they started off as probably not religious at all. And they just went through all of these processes, and instead of accepting the loss and the grief of losing their grandson, they decided that they wanted to use magic to bring him back. And it is going as they planned it to go, until they all start seeing ghosts and spirits. And when they start seeing these spirits, it starts freaking them out, starts scaring them. They realize something's wrong, and they bring in another Satanist from their coven to decipher the book and then to guide them in their ritual. And he does, except he wants to use the book for power. He's very greedy for power and decides that he wants to also use the book to summon an entity. So he tries to hijack the ritual. He ends up killing his mother and attacking them, and they realize this is all going out. It kind of escalates in this way that there end up being stacks upon stacks of mishaps going to them, and it shows a couple just going into their grief and their mourning, and they, instead of turning to God in their grief and help and turning to like the scriptures to help with their mourning, or trying to take peace in that their grandson is no longer suffering or will suffer in the future, they decide that they want to go against God's plan to try and bring this child back. And everything goes wrong for them. Everything goes wrong for them, and they do end up losing their lives because of it. It shows a lot of what can happen when you start messing with the occult. It's very specific in the Bible. You don't mess with that. And they decide that they're gonna mess with the things, and there's all these consequences that happen after that. And you could, like I said, you can see that they started off as a nice couple. They started off as like a normal type of older couple until they lost their grandson. And another couple of movies that are similar to this but go a little differently is Dark Song, which was released in 2016, and From Black, which is 2023. From Black is my favorite of those two. I like it a lot more than Dark Song. Dark Song, the ending kind of just, it bugged me. Like, I understand from a biblical view, it's like, no, that's how it should be. It still bugged me. I have not watched that one since I became a Christian, so maybe it'll hit differently in a different way. The second movie is Talk to Me, which was released in 2022, and this centers around a girl who lost her mother. Her mother unalived herself, and because she lost her mother, she blames her father and separates herself from her father and starts to just go into isolation. But then she tries to also push herself into her family, her friend's family, and into their house. She's always there. And there is a porcelain, well, not a porcelain, there's I think a plaster, I don't know exactly what it is, but there is a hand, and this hand has a bunch of different writing on it, and a lot of it travels between group to group to group, and it is used as a party trick. There's been a lot of connections to the addictive nature of drugs that can happen at parties, and just drugs and addiction in itself with this movie, but it's used as a party trick. And what it is you touch it, you invite the ghost, the spirit, into you, and it possesses you. And it's for 90 seconds. If it goes past 90 seconds, the spirits will want to stay and cling to you. So it goes under 90 seconds, and it's just a party trick. You get to see, there's like montages of them all having fun. It's so great. This is so interesting. It's like magic tricks, right? And then it becomes not. The main character, Mia, is the main character who lost her mom. Her friends are named Jade, and Jade has a little brother, Riley. And at one of these little parties, Mia's pushing her friend to bring bring the hand to her because she enjoys how it feels, and so she wants more and more of it. Convinces them to try it at her house, and then Riley decides he wants to use it. Even after a disturbing thing that happened earlier when they identify the youngest person in the room, which is Riley, the most innocent of the bunch, and the ghosts/spirits are saying that they want him. He decides he wants to try it because it looks so fun. Everybody's doing it. It's just so great. It's so fun. Nobody's been hurt from it that he's seen, so he wants to try the thing. And Mia decides that, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. He can do the thing. Except because he's younger, let's cut back the time he gets into it. Let's not give him a larger dose of the thing. And he gets to do it, which leads to one of the most disturbing scenes in the movie. If you've seen the movie and you've seen the whole thing, like, it was shocking to me. And then the spirits are manipulating Mia into thinking that her mother is possessing Riley. So she refuses to let them cut off the time that Riley has with the hand. And when they try and get separated in everything, it's not working. It starts fighting back against them, and then it starts becoming self-destructed to Riley. And that's when Jade comes back in, and it's a whole thing. They finally get the hand away from him, except that he is now in a type of coma. He's now has to be hospitalized because of what it did to him. And Mia is trying to get more from, she wants to get the hand back to Riley. She wants to get it back to him and she wants to use it more because she thinks that her mother is speaking to her through it. And so she tries to get through it. She tries to do all of this stuff to get through. It starts to escalate more and more. And then the spirits start manipulating her into thinking that her father lied to her, that he is the one who actually unalived her mom, and it wasn't actually a self-unaliving. And then it creates a separation more from them, and it starts to isolate her from her friends. She's already isolated from her family, but it's further isolating her from all of these things. And it shows a lot of like disturbing things. And in the end, she does get to use it, and she does lash out at everybody physically because of what it's doing to her. It's a great parallel for drug addictions and all of those type of things. But it's also, as a Christian now, looking at the way that the hand operates. Like it somehow gets to go from group to group to group, because we see at the end of the movie how it ends. It's either there's another hand or it's the same hand, but either way it ends up on the other side of the world. It started off at the beginning with one set of groups, then till there was an incident that happened with that, and then it just kind of travels all by itself. The way that it depicts, we get to see what the spirits in there see. It shows a depiction of hell with Riley in there, and it's very disturbing. If you've seen any of the director's cuts, especially with like when they slow down and explaining what they put into it, it's crazy. And that's their depiction of Riley in hell. And then at the very end of the movie with Mia, it seems kind of ambiguous, but Mia sacrifices herself instead of sacrificing Riley, as the hand was telling her to do, as the spirits were trying to convince her to do. So it mirrors a lot of, in the Bible, the stories where you have the characters who are, or the people who have that immense shame for what they did, and they are, instead of dealing with that or letting it go or anything, they unalive themselves. Or she unalived herself, and now you get to see her walking through, and it shows the outside scenes of what's happening to Riley, everybody healing, everybody coming better. It reminds me of the description of where the unclean spirits are that are in the New Testament and how they are roaming through the waterless places. It starts to show her, start talking about like a desolate desert type of place, and she starts off in the hospital seeing all of these people that are around her, and then the room starts getting darker. The picture starts to close in on her until she's just walking by herself in the dark. with nothing, no sounds, nothing, until she sees a light off in the distance. As she goes towards the light and she sees it, and it's a candle flame, and then now we can see that she's a part of this whole spirit realm. And I thought that was very interesting. The way that it parallels a lot of these things is really great. I really enjoyed it, and it's still one of the movies that I really like to watch. Even as a Christian, I think it's a very great depiction. Like, it has the really great depiction of hell. It has a really great depiction of the realm where the spirits roam. And it also, just like anything from Jackson, shows that how if you're turning away from God in your grief and in your mourning, you become further and separated away. And it's easier for you to be manipulated by these type of things. And instead of anything for Jackson, it becomes you're manipulated by the occult things that you invite into your own life. And if you want to go more secular with it, you're more easily influenced by the addictions that are available and around. And the third movie is The Possession. This was released back in 2012, and this was based on a true story about a Dybbuk box. And it was an infamous thing that was on, I think, Reddit. Somebody tried to sell this on eBay. There's a whole story about it. I can put like the Wikipedia link down in the description below. Now the Dybbuk box is in a sealed container at the Las Vegas Haunted Items Museum, I think I almost said Lance Preston, but that's a whole completely different thing. Who's the guy he's spoofing? Zach Baggins. I think it's in his museum. I'm not really sure where it's at. It's just in Las Vegas that I know of. But this movie focuses more on Judaism, which is really interesting. It's really interesting. So if you do not know what a Dybbuk box is, the Dybbuk is a malicious spirit or demon. It is believed to be a soul of a dead person. It can be exorcised. Sometimes it leaves the body, but it is stuck in a box. There are specific type of boxes that were either made or it goes into that kind of seal it in to keep it from possessing other people. And this particular Dybbuk box was possessed by a demon. I can't pronounce the name. I'll put it up there. It means taker of children. And what I found on it, it says that this demon is envious of fertility because she herself was infertile. So she wants to take the children. And this, like I said, this movie is focused more on the Judaism part of it, but it is like a recently divorced couple. They have shared custody of their daughters. They spend most time with mom, and then on the weekends they go see dad. Unfortunately, a more normal type of situation that a lot of people go through. And while with dad, they go to this estate, and this Dybbuk box shows up. It's there. The youngest child decides that they want this thing from the yard sale. It starts opening up, and it starts talking to her. The entity inside starts speaking to her. It's one of the facts that was on the little trivia things is that it's speaking Polish to her, and it keeps like asking to be let in. It's asking for to be let in to possess her, and she eventually does let it in. It's how the mother and the father go through trying to get the girl out of this possessed state. There is a point in the movie where the dad brings in a copy of the Pentateuch, which, if you don't know, is the first 5 books of the Bible. It's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Numbers. Yeah. And he starts reading from the Pentateuch, except the copy that he has Psalms in it, which I don't believe that's in the Pentateuch. I know that's in the usual Bibles. It's part of the 66 books of the Bible, but Psalms were written by David, the king of Israel, and he starts saying Psalm. I think it's like 9. I don't know which Psalm it was specifically. I haven't double checked this, but I have seen online that it said it's reading Psalm 91 to it before it starts freaking out on him. And this one hits, again, differently, just like the other type of the possession part of it hits a lot differently. It's a lot there's a lot of times where watching these parts, I'm like, I see the problem. I can see the problem. And you see a lot of these parents or the authority figures in here just absolutely refusing to believe that this could be anything paranormal or supernatural. And they're trying to go through all of any other explanation until they accept that there may be a God. And because there's demons here, that means that there's angels here, and that means that there is a God. And it takes most of the movie for them to realize, I may need some faith. I may need that. And in this one in particular, they go it because it is a Dybbuk box. They go the Jewish route of it, and they find a rabbi. And this is where there's actually a rabbi in here who raps. I forget how to pronounce his name. It's Matitsiu. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he actually plays one of like the junior rabbis in this movie, and he does the whole exorcism towards the end. But he's actually in real life a rabbi and a rapper who actually has some really good songs. I knew him from his rap music before I was a Christian, before I watched the movie originally. And so this one is a really good movie. And it, again, like the possession parts of the movie, just they hit differently. They hit differently because I'm like, a lot of it takes the whole movie for you to realize that, oh, this is something that cannot be explained by secular science, or will refuse to be explained by secular science. And it's very interesting. It's very fascinating to me to watch like possession movies now. The fourth movie is Pywacket, which was released in 2017. And this one kind of goes into what we were talking about with Anything for Jackson, of the occultist messing around and finding out. So this follows a girl. She's a teenager. She's in high school. Her mother, I think her parents are divorced, and her mother is moving them to this more isolated type cabin out in the middle of nowhere. And the girl she loves metal music. She loves messing, like, she's really drawn to the occult. And as teenagers, that seems to be, I know that was something that I was into as well as a teenager, and that's something that's I got drawn to as a teenager. And she's kind of more falling into that, and she's really does not like her mother for doing, and her mother's doing normal mother adult things, and her mother's trying to do the best for them, and she is just completely obstinate for it. And as a person who was a teenager like this, and then later on a mother of a teenager, I get both sides of it, and I'm just like, oh, but I'm like, the girl's wrong. The girl's wrong. Like, somebody needs to tell this girl that she's wrong. And she decides that she is going to call up a demon named Pywacket to kill her mother. That's what she wants to do, because her and her mother got into a fight. The girl gets all up in her feels and follows what she wants to do in her heart, which in the Bible, it says all over the place, do not follow your heart. Your heart is a liar. Your heart is deceitful. Which is why you need a new one. And so she follows what she wants to do. She ends up calling this demon to kill her mother. And then as soon as things start getting not even out of hand, as soon as she starts seeing that this is real, because there was a large part of her who didn't realize that doing the spells and calling on demons wasn't real. So she did. And when she realized it was real, she kind of goes into this panic mode of, I need to stop it. I should stop it. And it becomes this whole thing. And throughout it, like, you just see the consequences of her actions. And before I was a Christian, I liked this movie because there was consequences for the actions of this teenager. After it, it hits differently because I'm like, no, I feel so much empathy for both of them, and I feel so bad for both of them. And I sit there and I'm like, oh, like both of you y'all need Jesus. And I find myself saying that a lot as a new Christian. I'm like, I see the problem. I see the problem. And it hits a lot differently because I have a lot of empathy now. And before I was a Christian, I didn't have as much empathy. I didn't feel as much for people in general, and now I do. So I have a lot of empathy for both of them. And it's, again, you see, messing around with things you shouldn't as an occultist. Like, there's a reason why it specifically states in the Old Testament that you do not talk to spirits, you do not do magic, you do not do these things. And yet this teenager who has no understanding of it and doesn't actually believe in it starts doing the things because she's mad at her mother. And then the rest of the movie, you see the consequences for that. Before, I was, like I said, I didn't have that much empathy. And I was just like, yes, this is consequences for the actions. And now I'm just like, oh, I feel compassion for both of you. And it's odd. It's odd to have that now. The fifth movie is Friday the 13th. This one was released back in 1980, and this is one of the most iconic slasher movies. Like, obviously, Jason mask on my t-shirt here. I like the Friday the 13th movies. They got kind of crazy, but, you know, Jason in space will always be one of my favorite movies. It's just so ridiculous. I love it. But this first one was before Jason became the iconic slasher that he became in. This one follows his mother, who is the actual killer of these camp counselors. And it sets up a lot of the archetypes of a lot of these slasher movies. You always have these young teenagers or these young adults doing sinful things. They're doing all of the stuff that parents try and tell their kids not to do. They're always going out of their way to go into this like debauchery. In an old-fashioned type of slasher style, the killer always goes after those kids who are doing the things that, you know, we don't want children to do. And in this one, it's actually, like I said, it's actually Jason's mother, and it's not Jason himself. And this is a pattern that she has, that she is killing these camp counselors because they were so self-centered with what they were doing. They were so into their own sin, their self-pleasure and themselves, that they were not paying attention when her son Jason was being bullied, and then when he was drowning. And that's why he died at this camp. And so she loses her mind in her grief of losing her son, because she worked there. Like, obviously she loved her son a lot. She became a little crazy with her grief, and it became a pattern after that. Those like the whole reason they kept closing the camp, and they kept trying to reopen the camp, and then people would die and they'd close the camp, and then someone later on would try and open it up, and it was a pattern that she was killing these camp counselors to make sure that this camp was closed, because she believed that the camp counselors were innately terrible and that they would end up killing more kids, and that they were all responsible for her son's death. She ends up turning to the occult, and she ends up, I don't know, it doesn't actually say, but if you go on following the series into it, they do tie it with the Evil Dead series, and they talk about her having a copy of the Necronomicon and actually using the magic from the Necronomicon to turn Jason into a deadite to bring him back to her, except she dies. So she dies at the end of the movie, and then in the next one there's Jason full-grown adult Jason with no mind of his own, and he has a set parameter list of what she was doing and punishing those camp counselors, and then that's what he ends up doing throughout the rest of the movies. That's why he never dies. He comes back. Kind of like if you look into Jewish mysticism or anything, there's it's like a golem. That's kind of what he turns into, using the Necronomicon, except not in a more traditional sense of how a golem is made, based on what I've read. But he becomes this type of spirit type of thing. Like it's not Jason. That's not a child. That's not even like his original type of body, because he died as a child. And all of these things that came up as continuity errors were explained by the creators, by the writers, and they did tie it into The Evil Dead if you listen to interviews about it and everything. But it hits a lot differently now as a Christian. Again, you have the grief, the mourning, the turning away from God, and then trying to go into the occult to find answers to your questions and answers for your problems, falling further and further away from God, and that resulting in just disaster in her grief and trying to bring her son back. She ends up making this monster who goes off and perpetually kills teenagers. So yeah, that one hits a lot differently, especially after learning that they tied it into the Evil Dead series, which is also, I just really enjoyed the Evil Dead series. I really like those movies. Ash is hilarious, but they tie that into it, so it hits a lot differently now. But those are the 10 horror movies that hit differently as a new Christian. This video is very long. I apologize. Hopefully editing voodoo was able to cut it down a little bit. Editing voodoo here, I was not able to cut it down as much as I would like to. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Like I said, this is the first part for the first 5 movies. I will be releasing the second 5 movies pretty shortly after this one, so you guys can see them both. But yep, I was not able to cut it down as much as I thought. So these are the first 5. And thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, afternoon, whatever it is where you are. If you guys like this type of video, if you guys have any type of videos that you want to see from a new Christian's perspective, definitely leave those in the comments below. Don't forget to do all the YouTube things, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. And hopefully I'll get out some more videos. I have a few videos that I want to put out, so we'll see. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys have an amazing time or amazing day, and I'll talk to you guys hopefully very soon. Bye.